Hey guys, welcome to another edition of Paul's Planning Tips. Now, if you don't know what this is, don't feel too bad. My wife didn't either. It's actually called a locking nut key, and it's used to remove the locking nut, which is a lug nut that sits in the wheel of your car. When you get to your lug nuts, they're a funny looking one, looks just like this. Without this key, you actually cannot get that wheel off. Now, my wife didn't know what it was, and so she saw it in the glove box of her car and just simply discarded it, not realizing it had any importance or value. No harm, no foul. Until a few months later, we were driving home from a week-long camping trip up at Redfish Lake. We're driving home with our 4 kids in our backseat, our 6 bikes in the back of our bike rack, and a week's worth of camping gear piled up floor to ceiling in our car. We're somewhere between Burley and Snowville, which is the middle of nowhere, and around 1 o'clock in the morning, our car gets a flat tire. After 30 minutes of unpacking to get access to our jack and our spare tire, only to find out that I could not change the flat tire simply because I could not find this locking nut key. I asked my wife where it was located, generally in the glove box. She said, I recognized that, but I didn't know what it was for, so I discarded it. Moral of the story is, don't discard something just because you don't know what it's for or how important it is. Right now is tax season, so many of you have taxes on the brain. I've talked to thousands of people over my 2-decade-long career, and I've yet to meet one person who told me how much they love paying their taxes. However, I've talked to hundreds of people who tell me that they love being generous with charitable giving and charitable donations. Many of you paying as much as $10,000 and $20,000 and $30,000 a year in charitable donations. However, now that you're reaching retirement, with current tax laws, many of you are not receiving a tax benefit from your charitable donations. You see, the standard deduction is $25,900. And if you're over the age of 65, it's $27,300. That standard deduction is pretty high today. And it's hard to really justify itemizing when you don't have mortgage interest because your house is paid for. You don't have kids as dependents any longer. You generally are taking that standard deduction, which means all that money you're paying for charitable donations isn't benefiting you from a tax perspective any more than the individual that pays $0 in charitable donations. Now, I want to teach you 3 ways that you can actually benefit, even in retirement, from making charitable donations. First, QCDs to RMDs. If you are over the age of 70 and a half this calendar year, you can benefit from this strategy. Now, I know required minimum distributions are no longer required until age 72, but they have grandfathered in QCDs to the old rule of 70 and a half. So what this means is you can take a portion of your IRA and donate it directly to the charity of your choice. The result of this is you get to take that off the front page of your tax return as income. This is far more beneficial than simply taking the deduction on the back end, especially when you can't take the deduction because you're going to use the standard deduction. Also, reducing your income on the front page of your return has many carry-through benefits. For example, it can reduce your Medicare Part B premiums potentially. It can reduce the taxes due on your Social Security potentially, and it can give you the opportunity, if you are in fact itemizing, to itemize a little more for things like healthcare costs. Second, you can double up your charitable donations in a single calendar year. So if you have a pretty good idea of how much you want to pay in your charitable contributions on an annual basis, you can take this year's donations and you can future forecast next year's donations and pay them both in this calendar year. That will give you the opportunity oftentimes to go above your standard deduction and itemize. Now the next calendar year, you just take a standard deduction. Third, donating appreciated stock. Now, if you're one of our clients, you already are using smart investing principles, which means you most of the time will own your individual holdings. Now, if any of you have non-qualified positions, not just retirement accounts, you have the ability to donate appreciated stock positions directly to your charity of choice. Now, when you do that, you can deduct from your taxes the fair market value of the donation, and you can save the capital gain tax as well as the Medicare surcharge, and you're deducting it from your taxes. So think about the numbers here. Capital gains can be as high as 20%, your Medicare surcharge can be as high as 3.8%, and your individual tax rate could be as high as 37%. So if you add all those up in aggregate, that could be as high as 60%. It's a significant benefit for you. When you fail to plan, you plan to fail. Know what this little guy is, know what it's for, and know how to use it. If you don't understand something, reach out to our team. That's why we're here to help you guys. Until next time, retire smarter, not harder. Thanks, guys.